It was an ordinary afternoon in Rankin County, Mississippi. The home camera shows 40-year-old Ashley Smiley arriving home with her 14-year-old daughter, Carly Gregg, after school. From the outside, everything looks peaceful. But within minutes, something terrible is about to happen inside this quiet home. Carly lived with her mom and stepdad, Heath Smiley. She was known as a smart student, friendly, and active in school. Her mother, Ashley, was a beloved teacher, respected and loved by her students. And her stepdad, Heath, treated her like his own daughter. To everyone around them, they looked like a normal, happy family. But on March 19, 2024, their lives changed forever. That afternoon, security footage shows Ashley walking into the house and heading to her bedroom. Carly follows her for a bit, then steps into the backyard to play with her dogs. Moments later, on camera, Ashley looks out the kitchen going into a room, watching her pick up a gun that belonged. Everything looks calm. But soon after, Carly walks back inside. She slowly moves down the hallway toward her parents' bedroom. On camera, she can be seen going into a room to pick up a gun that belonged to her mother. She hides the gun behind her back as she walks toward her own room, where Ashley is sitting, unaware of what's about to happen. Seconds later, 4 gunshots are heard. Carly had just shot her mother multiple times in the face and neck. She then calmly walks into the kitchen, places the gun down, and sends a text to her stepfather, pretending to be her mom. The message simply asks, "When are you coming home, honey?" It seems she was trying to lure him back. He replies that he'll be home a little later. Carly then sends messages to her school friends, even video calling a few of them, showing them her mother's lifeless body. Some of them ask if they should call 911, but she tells them not to. One friend says Carly even hummed a small tune before hanging up, acting strangely calm. Later, one of her friends actually comes to the house. Carly meets her friend and says, "I put 3 in my mom. I've got 3 more for my stepdad." She even tells her friend to hide outside so he can watch when her stepdad arrives, as if this was all part of her plan. An hour later, Heath finally comes home. As he walks toward the front door, Carly hides behind a curtain. The moment he steps inside, she fires. The bullet hits his shoulder. He quickly rushes her and wrestles the gun out of her hands before she can shoot again. Carly runs out of the house, jumps over a fence, and disappears down the street. Her friend runs off too. The entire thing is captured on the home's CCTV system. Heath calls 911 in panic, bleeding from his shoulder, shouting that his wife is dead and his daughter just tried to shoot him. When police arrive, they find Ashley's body in Carly's room and the gun on the kitchen counter. Soon after, officers spot a girl walking on a nearby road. She matches Carly's description. When they ask if she was involved in the shooting, she quietly says yes. At the police station, investigators begin watching the home's CCTV footage. Piece by piece, they see the full story, from the calm arrival home to the shocking murder. Friends tell police that a few days earlier, Ashley found out Carly had been secretly vaping and using marijuana. She wasn't angry, just disappointed. But it seems Carly took it very personally. Police also find a note Carly had written a year before, full of sadness and regret. Her parents had even taken her to therapy for depression and anxiety, and she had recently started medication. She told doctors that the pills made her feel tense and restless, not calm. When the case goes to court, Carly rejects a plea deal that would have given her 40 years in prison. She decides to face trial, saying she wants the jury to hear her side, that the medication and her mental state affected her actions. Prosecutors argue that the murder was planned. They show the CCTV clips, Carly walking straight to the gun, checking if her mom was around, hiding the weapon, and pretending to text as her mom. They say she knew exactly what she was doing. The defense claims that Carly had no history of violence and must have been suffering a mental breakdown. They describe her as a bright, kind girl whose mind suddenly snapped under pressure. In September 2024, the jury in Rankin County, Mississippi, convicted 15-year-old Carly Madison Gregg of first-degree murder for killing her mother and attempted murder for shooting her stepfather. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for both murder charges, plus an additional 10-year term for tampering with evidence. The case is still active on appeal. meaning her legal journey is far from over. Sasha Samsudean CCTV. On October 17, 2015, a security camera in Orlando, Florida, captured something terrifying. In the video, 27-year-old Sasha Samsudean can be seen running through her apartment building. Just seconds later, a man follows behind her. That man is 33-year-old Stephen Duxbury, the building's security guard. But that night, he wasn't protecting her. He was hunting her. Sasha worked as a social media manager for a real estate company. Her friends said she was smart, friendly, and full of life. That night, she went out to watch a soccer game with her friend Anthony. After the game, they joined others at bars downtown to celebrate. Around 12:30 a.m., Sasha decided to head home alone. Anthony followed a little later, not realizing it would be the last time he'd ever see her alive. The next day, no one heard from Sasha. She wasn't answering texts or posting online, which was unusual for her. Worried, Anthony and two friends went to check her apartment. Her car was still in the parking garage, with a baby shower gift sitting in the back seat. Something she was supposed to bring that day. They knocked on her door, but there was no answer. Scared, they called 911. Police arrived and found no signs of forced entry. Using a code from the building owner, they opened the door and searched. Inside the bedroom, an officer noticed a hand sticking out from under a blanket. It was Sasha. She had been murdered. Investigators found her phone, purse, and key fob missing. There were marks on her neck. She had been strangled. A strong smell of cleaning supplies filled the air, which suggested someone tried to remove evidence. In the bathroom, detectives even found 2 severed fingertips, likely used to hide the killer's identity. Police began questioning everyone close to Sasha, starting with Anthony. They then spoke with the building's security guard. He said Sasha was drunk and couldn't find her key fob that night. He claimed he helped her into the building and then continued his patrol. To confirm his story, detectives reviewed the CCTV footage. At 1:46 a.m., the camera caught Sasha entering the building. A few minutes later, she was seen going up the stairs alone. But at 2:06 a.m., she suddenly appeared running, and right behind her was Stephen Duxbury. When questioned again, Duxbury said he only followed her to help her find her keys in her car. Police checked the garage footage, and sure enough, they saw both of them walking there together around 2:25 a.m. His story seemed to match, for now. Days passed with no solid leads. Detectives questioned Sasha's ex-boyfriend, her friends, and anyone who saw her that night. All were cleared. But then a neighbor came forward with an important clue. Around 2 a.m., he saw Sasha walking down the hallway, and about 10 feet behind her was Duxbury, following silently. That changed everything. Detectives rechecked all the footage and noticed something odd. Although Duxbury said he finished his shift at 6 a.m., a camera caught him at 6:39 a.m. carrying 2 large trash bags. Investigators immediately recognized the bags. They looked like the same kind used in Sasha's apartment. Duxbury normally wrote reports about trash left in hallways. He never took it out himself. This was suspicious. Police asked him to take a polygraph test. He agreed, hoping to prove his innocence. But during the test, when asked if Sasha was strangled, his reaction gave him away. The police had never released how she died. Only the killer could have known. After that, Duxbury asked for a lawyer, and the interview ended. With a warrant to search his home, detectives found shoes that matched prints from Sasha's apartment. Even more shocking, when they checked his phone, they found Google searches from the morning of Sasha's murder, searches for quick-set digital deadbolt override code, which was the same lock type used on apartment doors in Sasha's building. These searches happened just minutes before she was killed. With all the evidence gathered, police arrested Stephen Duxbury on October 30th, 2015, 2 weeks after the murder. DNA found on Sasha's body matched his. He was charged with first-degree murder and attempted assault. In 2017, after a week-long trial, a jury found him guilty on all counts. Duxbury was sentenced to 2 life terms plus 15 extra years in prison. Sasha's family and friends were left heartbroken. She was a kind, loving woman with a bright future, taken in a moment of evil. Even today, her loved ones remember her smile and her energy. Byrd and Melanie Billings, CCTV. Byrd and Melanie Billings were known in their town of Pensacola, Florida as kind and loving parents. After marrying in 1993, they built a big family together, raising 16 children, 13 of them adopted. Many of the children had special needs, but Byrd and Melanie loved them all deeply. Their home was full of laughter, care, and warmth. To make sure their kids were safe, they even installed cameras around the house so they could always keep an eye on them. But on July 9, 2009, their happy life came to a tragic end. That evening, the police received a frantic 911 call from a neighbor. The caller said the mother and father next door had been shot and that there were children in the house. When officers arrived, they were shocked. The door had been kicked in, and the house was full of terrified children, some crying, some too young or unable to speak. Inside the master bedroom, they found Byrd and Melanie dead. Both had been shot at close range. What looked at first like a robbery had quickly turned into a cold-blooded murder. Detectives searched the scene but found very few clues. Only a few shell casings and signs of forced entry. Many of the children couldn't explain what happened. One son, 10-year-old Jake, who had Down syndrome, had been in the room during the shooting but was too scared and shaken to talk. The police soon realized there were security cameras all over the house. Byrd had installed them himself to watch over the kids. Detectives hoped the footage might show who did this. When they watched it, they were stunned. In the footage, a red van pulls up to the driveway. Several people dressed all in black, wearing masks and gloves, jump out and rush toward the house. They move fast and in formation, like trained soldiers. Within seconds, they break down the door and disappear inside. The cameras catch Byrd and Melanie putting their hands up in fear. Byrd is shot in the legs, and the couple is forced into their bedroom, where there are no cameras. Moments later, the killers flee back to the red van. The entire attack lasts less than 10 minutes. The police released images of the red van to the public, hoping someone might recognize it. Days went by with no progress, until finally, a man called in saying he recognized the van. It used to belong to him. He said he had sold it to an elderly man named Leonard Patrick Gonzalez. When police spoke to Leonard, he was nervous and soon confessed that he had driven the van, but claimed he didn't know the couple would be killed. He said his son, Patrick Gonzalez Jr., was the one who planned the robbery. According to Leonard, his son had once done construction work at the Billings house and knew the layout. He also knew Byrd often carried large amounts of cash. Leonard said his son told him they were just going to rob a man who supposedly had drug money, not murder anyone. Patrick Jr. was arrested, but denied everything, even saying his father was mentally unstable. Still, detectives began to dig into his past. Patrick had a history of violence and had even worked as a martial arts instructor. He had asked Byrd for financial help with his gym business, but Byrd refused. That rejection might have fueled Patrick's anger. A search of Patrick's home led to an important clue, an empty shoebox. Detectives realized the shoe prints at the crime scene matched that brand and rushed to Walmart to check security footage from the day the shoes were bought. The video showed Patrick Jr. with several other men buying the same shoes. This helped police identify the rest of the gang: Donnie Stallworth, Gary Sumner, Wayne Calderon, Rakeem Florence, and Frederick Thornton. As the investigation continued, police learned that a woman named Pamela Wiggins was also involved. She was a real estate agent and had helped Patrick Jr. after the crime. When police found her trying to leave town on her yacht, she was arrested. Her husband later told police where the stolen safe was hidden. Eventually, two members of the group, Rakeem Florence and Frederick Thornton, decided to tell the truth. They said they were only supposed to steal the safe, but Patrick Jr. shot Byrd and Melanie during the robbery. They said Patrick had told them the couple were drug dealers and that there would be millions of dollars inside. When things went wrong, Patrick killed the couple to leave no witnesses and threatened to kill anyone who talked. With their confessions and the CCTV footage, police finally had enough to charge everyone involved. In court, Patrick Jr. tried to defend himself, claiming there was no physical proof he held the gun, but the jury didn't believe him. On October 28, 2010, he was found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder. He later received the death penalty. 6 other men were sentenced to long prison terms, and Pamela Wiggins was charged as an accessory. The tragedy left behind 13 adopted children who lost both of their parents that night. Their oldest sister, Ashley, took them in and continued to raise them. Even after the killers were caught, the sadness remained. But Ashley said she found some peace, knowing that justice was done, and that her parents' killers would never hurt anyone again. It was the morning of January 26, 2017 in Cleveland, Ohio. CCTV footage from a city bus shows a young girl stepping inside. Her name was 14-year-old Alianna Aefreeze. She looked like any other student heading to school, waving goodbye to her mom before taking her seat. But no one knew that this would be the last time her family ever saw her alive. That morning, Alianna's mom, Denisha, had walked her to the bus stop like always. Alianna was excited about a father-daughter dance happening later that evening. She had already picked out her dress and told her dad, Damon, that she wanted to look like a princess for him. It was supposed to be a special day. But by that afternoon, everything had changed. When Alianna didn't come home from school, her mom called the school office, only to hear the shocking news that Alianna had never made it to class at all. She called 911 right away to report her daughter missing. Police and FBI agents quickly joined the search, checking local hospitals, empty houses, and nearby parks. Family and friends printed missing posters and covered the streets with them. The weather turned freezing, and the family could only hope that Alianna had found shelter somewhere safe. Detectives turned to bus security footage, the last confirmed sighting of her. In the video, Alianna appeared calm and happy, chatting with another student. She looked like she was just on her way to school as usual. But then something strange caught the investigators' attention. Alianna didn't get off at her usual stop near the school. Instead, she got off 2 stops earlier, at East 93rd and Kinsman Avenue. It wasn't her normal route, and no one knew why she decided to get off there. In the same footage, detectives noticed a man in a white jacket following her after she stepped off the bus. He had also been seen sitting close to her during the ride. They thought he could be connected to her disappearance and immediately began trying to identify him. But when they checked the next bus's footage, the man didn't appear again. The trail went cold, and 3 long days passed. Then on January 29th, police officers investigating an abandoned house on Fuller Avenue made a horrifying discovery. Inside the dark, broken-down home, they found bloodstains leading to a locked room. When they kicked the door open, they found the body of a young girl. The clothes matched what Alianna had been wearing the day she went missing. The crime scene was horrific. There was blood everywhere, and several tools were found nearby, also covered in blood. Investigators could tell from the injuries that Alianna had suffered greatly before her death. It was one of the most disturbing cases the officers had ever seen. The news broke quickly, and soon Alianna's family found out. Denisha rushed to the scene, crying and screaming, desperate to see her daughter. Their bright, kind, and cheerful daughter was gone. With the case now a murder investigation, detectives collected DNA, fingerprints, and every bit of evidence they could find. They studied security footage from a nearby church, which showed Alianna walking down the street shortly before her death. In the video, a man could be seen talking to her. When she walked away, he started following her. Moments later, both of them disappeared from view, walking in the direction of the abandoned house where her body was later found. Police analyzed the man's movements and compared him to known criminals in the area. Soon they identified the suspect as 44-year-old Christopher Whitaker. He had a long criminal history, including violent and creepy crimes. He was a registered offender who lived nearby. A U.S. Marshals task force tracked him down and arrested him at his home. When they questioned him, he first denied knowing anything. But once detectives showed him the DNA results and video evidence, he started to confess. He said he had been under the influence of drugs and wasn't thinking clearly. He admitted to dragging Alianna into the abandoned house and killing her there. The details he gave matched what the investigators had already found. Whitaker was charged with kidnapping, assault, and aggravated murder. While waiting for trial, Alianna's parents filed a lawsuit against the school and the city. The school had a system that should have alerted them when a student didn't show up, but they never received a call. If they had been notified sooner, they might have had a chance to find her in time. The family later received a $1 million settlement. In February 2018, Whitaker stood trial. The court found him guilty on all counts, and he was sentenced to death. Whitaker apologized in court, claiming he felt regret and wished he could take it back, but no apology could undo what he had done. Today, Christopher Whitaker sits on death row, awaiting execution scheduled for July 2026. For Alianna's family, the pain never truly goes away. They still remember her as a happy, loving girl who just wanted to go to school and dance with her dad that evening. This is the story of 36-year-old Rod Metzer, a man who tried to fake being a hero, but ended up proving he was the monster all along. Rod once had a happy life with his wife Morgan. They met when they were teenagers and were deeply in love. They went to every school dance together, and Morgan thought she had found her forever person. They married young and dreamed of a big family, but soon tragedy began to hit them again and again. Rod's younger brother Kevin died of leukemia at just 19. It broke Rod completely. He depended on Morgan more than ever. A year later, they had a baby boy, but he was born with a heart problem and lived only 18 days. Morgan was crushed. 3 months later, she became pregnant again, this time with twins. It should have been a happy time, but instead, things got worse. Rod's personality started to change. He worked as a day trader and would lose control whenever something went wrong. He screamed, slammed doors, and punched holes in walls. Morgan tried to calm him down, but soon his anger turned on her. He started blaming her for everything and began to abuse her. In order to cope, she would hide in the closet, and it became her only safe place. Rod manipulated her so deeply that she started to believe his lies. He made her think she was the problem, even convincing her parents that she had attacked him. Over time, Morgan began to question her own mind. One day, after another terrible fight, she decided to take the kids to her parents' house. As she was leaving, she looked back and saw Rod in the garage holding a gun to his head. She screamed, closed her eyes, and waited for the sound of a gunshot, but it never came. When she looked again, he just walked back into the house. That moment made her realize she had to leave for good. She filed for divorce, and even after they separated, Rod wouldn't leave her alone. He showed up at family gatherings and holidays without warning. He knew she wouldn't make a scene in front of the kids. Then, right before New Year's Eve 2020, Rod told Morgan that he had pancreatic cancer and didn't have long to live. Despite their history, Morgan still cared for him because he was the father of her children. She let him stay at her house, but on the sofa. On New Year's Eve, Rod texted her, asking to go on a date. She said no and decided to stay home to relax. Later that night, after watching a movie, she went to bed. Hours later, she woke up to the feeling that someone was watching her. In the dark, she saw a shadow standing in the doorway. Before she could scream, the figure rushed at her and hit her with a gun. The man tied her hands with zip-tie cuffs and demanded money and jewelry. His voice was low and strange, like someone using a voice changer. She couldn't see his face because he wore all black and gloves. Morgan realized this might be the end. As she lay helpless, she tried to remember any self-defense trick that could save her. The attacker dragged her outside, blindfolded her, and left her on the porch. He warned her not to move or he'd come back and shoot her. For 40 minutes, she lay still in the freezing dark, thinking she was going to die. Then she heard footsteps and someone calling her name. It was Rod. He rushed to her, pretending to be shocked and worried. But Morgan looked at him and asked quietly, "Was this you?" When police arrived, Morgan told them everything. At first, they weren't sure what to believe. But when they searched Rod's phone, they found secret photos of Morgan, pictures she didn't know he had taken. They also discovered screenshots of her private messages with another man. Detectives soon found zip ties in Rod's apartment that perfectly matched the ones used to tie Morgan's wrists. His search history showed he had been looking up how to change his voice, how to knock someone out, and how to fake medical records. He had even created a fake email saying he had cancer, just to gain Morgan's sympathy. They also found a last letter where he wrote about killing her and then doing the same to himself. When police checked store cameras, they saw footage of Rod buying those exact zip ties 2 days before the attack. Security video from his apartment building showed him leaving just before the break-in and returning minutes after. The story he told about someone knocking on his window was completely fake. Eventually, Rod confessed. He admitted he had attacked Morgan in a twisted plan to make himself look like a hero who saved her. In court, Morgan faced him one last time. She said, "You were the love of my life, but living with you was like living with a monster." In 2021, Rod Metzer was sentenced to 25 years in prison. He'll be eligible for parole after 20. But Morgan says she will fight to make sure he serves every single day. Rod thought he could stage a tragedy, rescue his ex-wife, and win her back. But instead, his own lies, caught on camera and in evidence, exposed the true darkness behind his mask. In March 2014, a security camera outside a bar in Carlsbad, New Mexico, recorded a woman walking out alone. Her name was Emily Lambert, a 30-year-old teacher from Dallas, Texas, and a mother of 2. Emily had driven 8 hours from Texas to visit her boyfriend, Robert Early. He worked in the oil fields near Carlsbad, and they had been dating for about 8 months. Friends said Emily seemed very happy with him. He got along well with her daughters, and everyone thought he was kind. On the weekend of February 28th, Emily arrived in New Mexico to spend a few days with Robert. She called her mother and sounded cheerful. But the next day, everything changed. On Sunday morning, Emily's mother got a strange call from Robert. He told her that they had gone to a bar, had some drinks, and that Emily suddenly left. After that, she never came back. Emily's parents immediately drove 8 hours to Carlsbad to help search for her. They feared the worst. Meanwhile, police began investigating. When they checked Robert's motel room, they found Emily's clothes neatly folded, her phone on the nightstand, her purse still in her car, and her vehicle parked right outside. It didn't look like she had planned to go anywhere. Detectives questioned Robert. He said he went to bed thinking Emily would return, but she didn't. They then checked the security camera at the bar. Around 11:30 p.m., they saw Emily leaving alone. She looked upset and was walking fast. After that, there were no cameras and no witnesses. At first, Robert seemed calm and helpful when police talked to him. He described their evening, where they ate, what they drank, and even mentioned that another man had flirted with Emily at the bar. He said that made her angry, and she stormed off after an argument. When they checked with Robert's ex-girlfriend and ex-wife, they learned he had a bad temper and could be violent. That made detectives suspicious. They asked him to take a lie detector test. Robert agreed, but he failed. After that, the police saw him as a suspect, not just a boyfriend. Detectives talked to other guests at the motel. One person said they heard loud fighting and arguing in Robert's room that night. But Robert had said Emily never came back to the room at all. When police confronted him, he finally admitted they had argued in the room. He said she wanted to drive home while drunk, and he tried to stop her. Then, according to him, she ran out and a man in a white truck picked her up. He claimed he followed them and saw the man hit her with a pipe. He said he panicked and drove away. Detectives didn't believe him, but decided to follow up anyway. They took Robert with them to look for the house where he said this happened. As they searched near an old tin building, they found drag marks in the dirt leading to a field. There, they discovered Emily's body. She had severe head injuries and had been dragged for hundreds of feet. The missing person case instantly became a murder case. When police told Robert that Emily had been found dead, he didn't cry or show emotion. He just lowered his head and smoked a cigarette. Detectives knew then that he was hiding the truth. A new investigator was brought in to talk to him again, someone who could try a different approach. This detective spoke to Robert in a friendly, calm way, trying to get him to open up. He told him he understood how jealousy and alcohol can make people lose control. After a long talk, Robert began to break down. He stepped outside for a cigarette, and while the detective recorded their conversation, Robert quietly confessed. He said he had kicked Emily several times during their fight, and she collapsed. He panicked and didn't know what to do. He took her body to a field, tied a rope around her neck, attached it to his car, and dragged her. When she was still moving, he hit her in the head with an air pump until she stopped breathing. He made up the story about the man in the cowboy hat to hide what he had done. Robert was arrested and charged with murder and kidnapping. At the trial, the evidence was overwhelming. One of the hardest moments came when prosecutors revealed that Robert's phone had accidentally recorded Emily's last moments. Her final words were played in court. Emily's family broke down in tears. On May 15, 2015, Robert Early was found guilty of first-degree murder and kidnapping. He was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. The detective who had promised Emily's daughter that he would bring her mother home said it was the hardest promise he ever had to keep, because he did bring her home, but not alive. The CCTV footage of Emily leaving the bar seems ordinary at first, but knowing what happened afterward makes it deeply disturbing. It was a quiet night on March 23, 2022, in St. Lucie County, Florida. Around 11 p.m., a silver Honda Civic was found crashed along South Indian River Drive. The car had rolled over and was badly damaged, but when police arrived, the driver was gone. Witnesses said they saw a young woman climb out of the wreck, looking lost and confused. She told them she needed her phone and purse, but before anyone could stop her, she ran off toward the nearby water. The woman was 21-year-old Leigha Michelle. Deputies began searching the area to find her, worried she might be hurt or in danger. Among them was 22-year-old Deputy Cody Colangelo. He was sent to check near the shoreline, where someone thought they had seen movement. Cody found Leigha standing near the water, holding what looked like a small black wallet. His body camera recorded everything. He spoke calmly, trying not to scare her. She looked frightened and said, "I don't want to. I'm scared." Leigha seemed confused, maybe under the influence of something. She didn't seem violent, so Cody tried to guide her slowly back up the steps. But just moments later, the situation turned deadly. Without warning, Leigha pulled out a knife and stabbed the deputy in the neck. Shocked and bleeding, Cody tried to defend himself, firing a single shot, but he missed. Leigha ran off into the dark woods while Cody radioed for help, holding his neck to stop the bleeding. Other deputies arrived within seconds after hearing the gunshot. They found Cody injured but still conscious. Nearby, they saw Leigha hiding by the stairs. They shouted at her to show her hands, but instead of surrendering, she ran toward the water again. Officers chased after her, yelling for her to stop. Eventually, she came out of the water, dropped the knife, and lay on the ground. They handcuffed her and waited for backup. Deputy Cody was rushed to the hospital. The knife had cut deep into his neck, right beside a major artery. Doctors had to perform emergency surgery that lasted nearly 2 hours. They replaced part of the damaged artery using a blood vessel from his leg. Luckily, Cody survived. Meanwhile, Leigha was taken to the hospital too. She had bruises and small cuts from the car crash earlier that night. Once she was treated, deputies confirmed who she was and brought her in for questioning. When detectives first tried to talk to Leigha, she seemed dazed and barely responsive. She said she didn't remember much. She recalled crashing the car, panicking, and running toward the beach. She said she saw a man with a flashlight, Cody, but didn't remember what happened after that. When asked what she was holding that night, she admitted she had her wallet and a butterfly knife. Detectives asked her what happened to the knife, and she said she thought it fell in the water. When they asked if she had used the knife before losing it, she started breathing heavily and avoided answering. They kept questioning her, trying to understand why she attacked the deputy. Leigha finally said she panicked because she didn't have car insurance and her license was suspended. She was scared of going to jail, but the detective didn't believe that was the full truth. He told her, "I don't think you stabbed someone just because you didn't have insurance." Leigha quietly said she was paranoid and afraid. The interview ended with Leigha showing regret and confusion. She couldn't explain why she did it. She was later moved to jail while the investigation continued. During his follow-up interview, he explained that he didn't shoot again after his first shot because he didn't have a safe angle. There were cars passing by, and he didn't want to risk hitting anyone else. He also admitted he hadn't realized Leigha was holding a knife. He thought it was just a wallet. More than a year later, in April 2024, the case went to trial. The jury watched the body cam footage that showed the entire incident, from the moment Cody first saw Leigha to the attack itself. They also heard about his surgery and recovery. Cody testified about how close he came to dying that night and how he spent months healing before returning to duty. After several days of testimony, the jury found Leigha Michelle Day guilty on all charges: attempted first-degree murder of a law enforcement officer, leaving the scene of a crash, and driving with a suspended license. In the early hours of October 13, 2013, a 911 call came in from an apartment in Fairfax, Virginia. The caller, a young woman named Taylor Gould, was terrified. She told the operator there was blood everywhere, that someone was hurt, and that he wasn't breathing. When police arrived at the scene, Taylor met them at the door, visibly shaken. Inside the small apartment, officers found a horrifying sight. 23-year-old Mark Waugh, a graduate student, lay dead on the floor. He had been stabbed multiple times. Blood covered the walls, floor, and furniture. Nearby stood Taylor's boyfriend, 24-year-old Rahul Gupta, completely covered in blood and smelling strongly of alcohol. When questioned, Rahul appeared dazed and confused. He kept mumbling that he caught his girlfriend cheating and that he had killed his buddy. Police immediately detained both Rahul and Taylor and took them to the station for questioning. Earlier that night, the three had been out celebrating Rahul's birthday with friends. They had gone bar hopping across town, visiting several places and drinking heavily. CCTV footage from the building later showed the trio returning to the apartment just before 2 a.m. All three appeared intoxicated but calm, showing no visible signs of anger or tension. At some point after entering the apartment, something went terribly wrong. When police arrived minutes later, Mark was dead. During her interview, Taylor claimed she remembered very little from that night. She said they had all been drinking, playing video games, and that everything was normal until Rahul suddenly told her to call 911. She insisted she had no idea how Mark was hurt. When told that he had died, she seemed shocked and broke down crying. Rahul, on the other hand, gave confusing answers. He said he didn't know what happened, but denied stabbing his friend. He claimed he had been sitting on the couch when he heard Taylor scream. He looked up and saw Mark on the floor, bleeding heavily. Rahul said he rushed to help, tried to stop the bleeding, and told Taylor to call for help. He also admitted he had been very drunk and high, and that his memories were blurry. Detectives, however, were suspicious. Rahul's first words at the crime scene, admitting he killed his friend, sounded like a confession. But as he sobered up, he denied it, saying he must have said those things out of shock. Investigators believed he may have confessed to protect Taylor. The case grew more confusing as detectives examined the evidence. Rahul was found drenched in blood, while Taylor had only small stains on her hands. She didn't have any major injuries, no bruises, and her hair and makeup were perfectly in place, which made police doubt she had been involved in a violent struggle. However, the defense team pointed out several strange details about Taylor's condition that didn't match her version of events. Photos taken right after the 911 call showed she had changed her outfit before police arrived. She also had 2 small cuts on her hand, which some experts said could have come from gripping a knife during a stabbing. Forensic evidence added more layers to the mystery. Investigators found one of Taylor's contact lenses stuck to the back of Mark's jeans, suggesting she had been very close to him during the attack. Her broken and bloody fingernails hinted at some kind of struggle. There were also strange text messages from Mark's phone that night, sent to a friend shortly before he died. One of them read, "My night is becoming historically awkward. I'm about to gnaw my hand off so I can leave in an ambulance." It suggested that something uncomfortable was happening between him, Taylor, and Rahul before the violence broke out. Detectives believed the motive might have been jealousy, or an argument fueled by alcohol. Rahul and Taylor had reportedly been fighting more often in recent weeks, and Rahul was known to get possessive when drunk. Rahul's lawyer argued that he was too intoxicated to form a clear memory or commit such a violent act intentionally. He also claimed that Rahul had only gotten Mark's blood on him because he tried to give CPR. The CCTV footage showing the three entering the apartment remains haunting. They look like normal friends having a fun night out, unaware that tragedy is just minutes away. Eventually, after years of legal battles, Rahul Gupta was found guilty of second-degree murder in 2015 and sentenced to 25 years in prison. Prosecutors said his drunken confession, along with the physical evidence, proved he killed Mark in a jealous rage after believing Taylor had been unfaithful. Taylor Gould was never charged. She later testified that she truly had no memory of the attack and that Rahul had always been protective of her. This next story takes us to a small town in County Offaly, Ireland, called Tullamore. In 2022, it was home to a young woman named Ashling Murphy. She was 23 years old, bright, motivated, and full of life. From a young age, she dreamed of becoming a teacher, and not long after finishing college, she got her dream job at Durrow National School. Her co-workers said she fit right in from day one. Her father said she was always busy, always trying to do her best, and always making the most out of every single day. Ashling loved music. She took after her mother, who was also musical. As a child, she played the fiddle and joined choirs and music groups at school. She was very talented and became one of the top fiddle players in Ireland, even performing at festivals. Outside of work, she spent time with her family, her parents, her sister Amy, her brother Cathal, and her boyfriend Ryan. Ryan and Ashling had met when they were teenagers. After some time apart, they got back together and started planning a life together. Ryan said she had the kind of smile that could lift anyone's spirits. On January 10th, 2022, Ashling visited Ryan's house to drop off some groceries because his family was isolating due to COVID. They could only say a quick hello at the door, but they were looking forward to going on a trip together in 10 days. 2 days later, on January 12th, Ashling finished teaching and decided to go for a jog, something she often did to clear her head. She told her mom where she was going. Her mom worried and told her to be careful. She went running along the Grand Canal, a quiet, peaceful area where many locals walked their dogs or exercised. Around 3:15 p.m., 2 other women jogging nearby noticed a bike on the ground and heard crying from the bushes. Thinking someone had fallen, they went closer and saw a man attacking a woman. They could see a necklace on her neck with the name Ashling. When they shouted, the man looked up and told them to go away through gritted teeth. The women ran to get help. When police and paramedics arrived, they found Ashling lying motionless. Despite their efforts, she was gone. She had been strangled and stabbed 11 times in the neck. The police began a full investigation and asked the public for help. They found a bicycle at the scene and began searching for its owner. Through CCTV and witness accounts, they started putting the pieces together. Soon, they focused on a 31-year-old man named Joseph Puska, who had shown up at a hospital 2 days after the murder with cuts and scratches on his face. He first said he'd been attacked by someone else, but then, while in hospital, he confessed. He said, "I did it. I am the murderer," and described what happened, saying he had used a knife and panicked. DNA from under Ashling's fingernails matched him. She had fought him fiercely. A few days later, Ashling's funeral took place. The entire country mourned. Schools held moments of silence, and thousands of people attended vigils across Ireland. Her boyfriend Ryan gave a heartbreaking speech, saying, "You are the greatest love of my life. Goodbye for now, but not forever." That same day, police charged Joseph Puska with murder. He was a builder from Slovakia who had lived in Tullamore with his wife and 5 children. CCTV later showed that earlier on the day of the attack, he had followed several women along the canal before finding Ashling. Police said he had gone out that day with the intent to harm someone. Even after confessing, Puska later changed his story, saying he was only trying to help Ashling, not hurt her. His DNA, his confession, and witness statements all proved what he had done. In November 2023, after a 2-week trial and testimony from more than 60 witnesses, the jury found him guilty of murder. The judge said, "We have evil in this room," and gave him a mandatory life sentence. Ashling's family and Ryan spoke directly to him in court. Ryan said, "Because of you, I have to somehow carry on without her." The judge told Puska he had shown no remorse and had done nothing but lie. After his sentencing, he was moved to another prison under watch. Even though Ashling's life was taken far too soon, her light continues to shine in the hearts of everyone who knew her, a kind, talented, and beautiful young woman who just went out for a jog and never came home. Graham Dwyer and Elaine O'Hara. In 2012, a woman named Elaine O'Hara went missing from Dublin, Ireland. Her case seemed at first like a sad disappearance, but what was later discovered through CCTV and digital evidence turned it into one of the most disturbing murder cases in the country. Elaine was born in 1976. She was shy and had a hard time growing up. People at school bullied her, and she struggled with depression and other mental health problems. Her mother passed away when she was 26, and her doctor, who she trusted a lot, also died soon after. These losses made her very lonely. Elaine worked with children and dreamed of becoming a Montessori teacher. She lived alone in South Dublin and took night classes. Her family knew she had a kind heart, but also knew she was very vulnerable. On August 22, 2012, Elaine disappeared. The last time she was seen alive was on CCTV leaving her apartment. Something strange stood out. She was holding a phone that wasn't her usual one. Later, police would call it the mystery phone. A jogger saw her later that evening in Shanganagh Park, not far from where her mother was buried. She was crying near a grave. Her car was later found in the park, close to dangerous cliffs. Because of her history of depression and self-harm, police first thought she had taken her life, but her body wasn't found. For more than a year, nothing happened. Then in August 2013, the mystery began to unfold. That summer, the water level in a nearby reservoir dropped because of dry weather. 3 men spotted a bag floating in the shallow water. When they opened it, they found handcuffs, ropes, a ball gag, and other bondage gear. They also found a supermarket loyalty card that belonged to Elaine O'Hara. The men told the police, who began searching the area. They found more of Elaine's things: glasses, phones, clothes, and an inhaler. It was clear someone had tried to hide evidence by throwing it all into the water. Around the same time, a dog walker in the Dublin mountains noticed her dogs bringing home bones. At first, she thought they were animal bones, but one day she saw that one bone had a piece of clothing still attached. She called the police. The remains were confirmed to be Elaine's through dental records. She had been dead for about 13 months. Police then started to look into Elaine's private life. They found that she had joined an adult website years earlier, one that focused on power exchange relationships, using the name Help Me Learn. There, she met a man with the username Architect72. That man turned out to be Graham Dwyer, a married architect with children who lived in Dublin. Dwyer and Elaine had been in an on-and-off relationship since 2007. It wasn't a normal relationship. It was violent and involved knives and control. Dwyer liked to mix violence with intimacy, and he pushed Elaine to take part in things that scared her. The CCTV from Elaine's apartment building showed Dwyer visiting her many times before she disappeared. The same type of bag found in the reservoir could be seen on him in the footage. DNA from Dwyer was also found in Elaine's bedroom. Police recovered text messages between them from phones found in the reservoir. The texts were very disturbing. Dwyer told Elaine he wanted to stab and kill women during intimate moments. He said she needed to help him control his violent urges. Elaine replied that she didn't want to be hurt. She just wanted love and to have a baby someday. But Dwyer didn't care. Investigators believed he met Elaine on the day she vanished, took her to the mountains, and killed her. Then he tried to make it look like she did it to herself by leaving her car near the cliffs and throwing their phones and bondage items into the reservoir. When police arrested him, Dwyer first said he didn't know Elaine. Later, he admitted they had an intimate relationship but denied killing her. The evidence said otherwise. In his home, police found short stories he had written about stabbing women, and witnesses came forward saying he had tried similar things with them. Dwyer's defense claimed Elaine had taken her life, but the prosecution said he planned the murder, using her weakness to control her. The jury agreed with the prosecution. Graham Dwyer was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Even after his conviction, Dwyer continued to fight the case in court. In 2018, he won part of an appeal, arguing that the way police used mobile phone data to track him broke European privacy laws. The legal process over that issue is still ongoing. Elaine O'Hara's case is remembered as one of Ireland's darkest crimes, not only because of the disturbing messages and violence, but also because of how technology, from CCTV to phones, helped uncover the truth. The Isle of Bute in Scotland is a small and peaceful place. It's the kind of town where people know each other and often leave their doors unlocked. But in the summer of 2018, this quiet community was changed forever by a terrible crime: the murder of 6-year-old Alesha MacPhail. Alesha was born in October 2011 to her parents, Georgina and Robert. Though her parents had separated, they both adored her. She was cheerful, curious, and kind to everyone. Her teachers said she loved learning and made friends easily. She lived with her mother and younger sister on the mainland, but often visited her father and grandparents on the Isle of Bute, especially during school breaks. At the start of the summer holidays in 2018, Alesha went to stay with her father. On the evening of July 1st, around 11 p.m., her father's girlfriend, Tony McLaughlin, checked on her. Alesha was sound asleep, so Tony went to bed too. The key was left in the front door, something common in the area. A 16-year-old boy named Aaron Campbell was at a party nearby. He lived on the island with his parents and sister. Outwardly, he seemed like an ordinary teenager, funny, friendly, even running a small YouTube channel. But privately, his thoughts had grown dark. He had started drinking, using drugs, and speaking about violent fantasies. He once said he wanted to kill someone just to know what it felt like. As the night went on, Aaron argued with his mother and messaged Tony McLaughlin trying to buy drugs. When she didn't reply, he decided to go to her house, where Alesha and her family were staying. He took a kitchen knife with him. At 6 a.m., Alesha's grandfather woke up for work and went to check on her. Her bed was empty. The family searched the house, but she was nowhere to be found. They called the police immediately. When Tony checked her phone, she saw missed calls and messages from Aaron Campbell during the night. She messaged him to say that Alesha was missing, and he replied with laughing emojis, saying he was sure she hadn't gone far. A large search began that morning. Sadly, at about 9 a.m., a man walking his dog found Alesha's body in a wooded area about 15 minutes from her home. She had been assaulted and murdered. Her mother, still on the mainland, learned what had happened through Facebook posts. The community was heartbroken. Everyone wanted to know who could do such a thing. Among those helping the police was Aaron Campbell's mother, Jeanette. She checked their home's CCTV footage, hoping it might show something useful. What she found instead shocked her. The camera showed Aaron leaving the house twice during the hours Alesha went missing. She turned the footage over to the police. Aaron was brought in for questioning as a witness. He seemed calm and polite. He said he had gone out only to buy drugs. But when police examined his phone, they found disturbing things. Searches about DNA at crime scenes, strange messages, and the same Snapchat he'd sent joking about finding the killer. His DNA was later found on Alesha's body, proving he was the one responsible. When confronted with the evidence, Aaron first denied everything. He even tried to blame Tony McLaughlin, claiming they had an affair and that she planted his DNA to frame him. But soon, the truth became clear. In the early hours of July 2nd, Aaron had entered the unlocked house, picked up Alesha as she slept, and carried her away. When she woke up and asked what was happening, he told her he was a friend of her father's and gave her his shirt to keep her warm. What followed was horrific. He assaulted and killed her, then left her body in the woods and went home to clean himself up. At his trial in 2019, Aaron showed no emotion. Witnesses said he even tried not to laugh while hearing the evidence. The jury took only 3 hours to find him guilty of abduction, rape, and murder. Because he was 16, the court first kept his name secret, but the judge later lifted the restriction, saying the public had a right to know who he was. Aaron Campbell was sentenced to 27 years in prison. The judge described his actions as cold, arrogant, and cruel, saying he had never shown a hint of remorse. Later, his sentence was reduced to 24 years on appeal. His family has since disowned him, and experts believe he remains a danger to society. A year after her death, Alesha's old school built a wooden playhouse in her memory, decorated with butterflies and unicorns, symbols of the bright and loving child she was. It was the night of September 13th, 2016 in Denton, Texas. CCTV footage from a local bar shows a young woman walking in. Her name was Jackie Vandagriff, a 24-year-old college student studying nutrition at Texas Woman's University. She looked happy and calm, just like any other person enjoying a night out. But only a few hours later, she would be dead. The next morning, police were called to Grapevine Lake, not far from the town. What they found there was horrifying. Inside a small blue kiddie pool lay a body that had been cut into pieces and set on fire. The remains were so badly damaged that officers couldn't even tell at first if it was a man or a woman. Later, fingerprints confirmed the victim was Jackie Vandagriff. Detectives began searching for clues. CCTV cameras showed Jackie at a bar the night before, talking to a man no one recognized. The footage became the first big lead. Soon, police identified the man as Charles Bryant, a 30-something fitness trainer who lived about 20 miles away. When police checked Bryant's past, they discovered troubling details. He had a history of harassing and stalking women, including one young woman named Caitlin Mathis. Caitlin had recently ended a short but intense relationship with Bryant, and what she described about him was disturbing. Caitlin met Bryant a few months earlier while working at a restaurant. He seemed charming and confident at first, but soon his controlling side came out. He wanted to know where she was all the time, and he tried to isolate her from others. Her mother even warned her, saying she had a bad feeling about him, that he would hurt her one day. When Caitlin finally broke up with him, Bryant refused to let go. He started showing up uninvited, at her mother's house, at her college dorm, even at her workplace. He followed her around campus, and she was terrified. Eventually, police issued a restraining order to keep him away from her. But Bryant didn't stop. He was obsessed. Just 2 weeks later, on the night of September 13th, he was seen again, this time at the same bar where Jackie Vandagriff walked in looking for a job. Jackie didn't know who he was. They started chatting, and after a while, the two left together. It was raining that night, and people assumed he was just giving her a ride home. The following day, Jackie's burned remains were found. Soon after, a strange post appeared on her Twitter account. "Never knew I could feel like this." Police believed it was posted by her killer. Investigators quickly focused on Bryant. They found out about his violent behavior toward Caitlin and how he had recently been stalking her again. When police searched Bryant's home, they made several discoveries: a large military knife, Jackie's purse, and evidence that he had recently bought a shovel. Even more chilling, the kiddie pool from his backyard was missing, the same kind that had been found at the crime scene. When detectives questioned him, Bryant gave confusing answers, but he still refused to admit what exactly happened. To get a confession, investigators brought in Texas Ranger Jim Holland, a well-known expert in interrogation. Holland tried a different approach. He acted friendly, like he was trying to understand, not accuse. Gradually, Bryant began to talk. He claimed that Jackie had come into the bar asking for a job, and he offered her a ride afterward. He said they had intimate moments in his car and that Jackie liked being choked, a claim police believed was a lie. Bryant said a zip tie accidentally tightened around her neck, causing her to stop breathing. Detectives knew he was making excuses. He never called for help. Instead, he cut up her body, placed it in a kiddie pool, and set it on fire by the lake. Even after the murder, Bryant couldn't let go of his obsession with Caitlin. He used Jackie's phone to send her a friend request on Facebook. To Caitlin, it was clear he had killed a woman who looked a lot like her, almost as if he was trying to take revenge. When the case went to trial, Bryant claimed Jackie's death was an accident. But the evidence told another story: his stalking, his violent behavior, the tools he bought, and his attempt to destroy the body. In the end, the jury didn't believe him. He was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison.